Have you ever been hurt so deeply that it left you breathless? Have you ever trusted someone, only to watch them turn away like you never mattered? Maybe someone looked you in the eyes and lied without hesitation. Maybe they promised they would stay, but they walked away without warning. Maybe you gave them everything, your time, your heart, your love, and they treated it like it was nothing. If that's you, I want to speak to your heart tonight. Listen closely. God saw it. God knows. And God will not let it go unanswered. There are moments in life when the pain doesn't just cut through your emotions or bruise your body. It pierces your very soul. It shakes you to the core. It makes you question your worth, your judgment, and even your ability to trust again. You sit there, holding the shattered pieces of what they broke, wondering, how could they do this? How could they deliberately choose to cheat, to lie, to abandon you as if you meant nothing? And while you're left with the mess, struggling to pick up the fragments, they move on as if nothing happened. They walk away freely, pretending they were never part of your story. But don't let your heart be troubled. Don't believe the lie that you're alone in this pain. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not abandoned. The Bible says in Romans chapter 12 verse 19, "Vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord." That means you don't have to carry the crushing weight of revenge. You don't have to waste your precious energy trying to make them see the damage they cause. You don't have to explain yourself, prove yourself, or chase justice in the hands of those who never intended to give it. God saw the moment they turned their back on you. He heard every word spoken behind closed doors. He witnessed the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal, and He is not silent. He is not indifferent to your tears. There's something incredibly comforting in knowing that the God of the universe keeps records, not out of bitterness, but out of divine justice. When someone intentionally wounds you, it is not ignored by heaven. God notices the tears you cried alone. He saw every moment you chose to remain silent when you could have lashed out. He saw you extend grace when you could have chosen revenge. He heard your whispered prayers when you didn't know if you could make it through another day. And I know, some of you are asking, but why? Why did God allow it? If He loves me, why didn't He stop it? That's the question we all ask in our darkest moments. But let me tell you this. God never promised we wouldn't face betrayal. He promised He would never leave us in it. He never said people wouldn't harm us, but He did say, "I am with you always," even in betrayal, even in heartbreak, even in the silence of your most painful night. The very people who tried to break you thought that would be the end of your story. But they didn't realize, they are not the author. They don't know the God who can take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it into something beautiful. They don't know the one who restores what was lost. They don't know the one who binds up the brokenhearted, lifts the lowly, and defends the defenseless. They thought they could damage you and walk away free. But nothing escapes the eye of a holy God. That's why you don't have to plot, you don't have to post, you don't have to prove anything. The most powerful thing you can do is to hand that pain over to God and say, "Lord, I don't understand why they did it, but I trust you to handle it. And I can promise you this, He will handle it in His time, in His way, with more justice and truth than you could ever deliver on your own." Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It doesn't mean letting them back into your life to do it again. Forgiveness means you release the weight of that pain to God. You let Him carry the anger, the grief, the betrayal. You let Him lift what your heart can no longer bear, because bitterness is a chain, but forgiveness is a key. When you forgive, you are not saying what they did was acceptable. You are saying you refuse to let their actions keep you from the future God has for you. Maybe you've been carrying this pain for years. Maybe the betrayal has been your silent shadow, following you wherever you go. But tonight, God is gently inviting you to lay it down. Don't wait for an apology. Don't wait for them to understand the damage they caused. Release it into the hands of the one who judges rightly. Let it go into the arms of the one who makes all things new. Yes, they may have damaged you intentionally, but God will restore you intentionally. He will bless you publicly for what you've endured privately. He will raise you. He will heal you. He will give you a peace that no betrayal can steal. So let God handle what your heart can't carry. And maybe right now you're still asking, why? Why did they hurt me so deliberately? Why would someone I trusted choose to break me like that? It's a question that echoes through the chambers of many broken hearts. Sometimes, it feels like the betrayal was calculated, as if they wanted to tear you down completely, to leave you shattered beyond repair. And maybe, honestly, that's exactly what they intended. But here's the truth that will set you free, even when their intentions are cruel. God's purposes are stronger. There's a story in Scripture that reminds us of this. Joseph. His own brothers betrayed him, sold him into slavery, and left him for dead. But years later, standing in power before them, Joseph said something unforgettable. "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." Genesis chapter 50 verse 20. They thought they were writing Joseph's end, but God was writing a beginning. What they meant to destroy, God used to save a nation. And that same God is working in your story right now. When someone wounds you intentionally, it's easy to stay stuck in anger. It's easy to camp in the pain. But there's a bigger story unfolding: God's sovereignty, His mercy, His unfailing love. Your pain is not the conclusion, your heartbreak is not the final chapter. What you're carrying today can become the testimony you stand on tomorrow. Your story can be the very thing that helps someone else find their healing. Because in God's hands, nothing is wasted, not even your betrayal. What was meant to tear you down can become the foundation He builds your future on. And even though it's hard to see when you're in the middle of the storm, the promise is still true. God will bring beauty from your ashes. He will bring peace from your pain. He will bring purpose from your hurt. You don't have to stay broken. You don't have to live bitter. You don't have to be defined by what they did to you. Look again at Joseph. After everything, he didn't spend his life blaming his brothers. He didn't curse them. He didn't chase revenge. He stood tall and said, "God meant it for good." And that's the posture God wants for you too, not because you're pretending it's all okay, but because you trust that His hand is still on your life. Even in the deepest pain. This truth doesn't minimize your wounds, it acknowledges them, but refuses to let them define you. It says, "Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was betrayed. But God's plan is bigger than my pain." And when you start living with that kind of bold faith, you walk forward, not as a victim, but as a victor. You see, when someone betrays you, when they intentionally cause you pain, it's easy to believe that holding on to bitterness is your only protection. But as we just reminded ourselves, bitterness is a chain. Forgiveness is the key. Let's go deeper into what that really means. When someone damages you, when they lie, cheat, or hurt you, they've taken something from you. Maybe it was your trust. Maybe it was your sense of safety. Maybe it was your peace. And when you choose to hold on to anger, resentment, or the desire for revenge, you end up giving them even more than they already took. You let them continue to control your emotions, your thoughts, your life, long after they've walked away. That's why forgiveness is so powerful. It takes back the power they had over you. It's important to remember, forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling. Your heart may scream, "Never, hold on, make sure they pay." But forgiveness says, "Even when I don't feel like it, I will let this go." Forgiveness means you make the conscious decision to release the pain into God's hands. You say, "Lord, I don't understand, but I trust you to heal me and to handle the justice I deserve." So many people think forgiveness means forgetting. But the Bible teaches us something much deeper. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is releasing the debt. It means choosing not to hold the wrong against the person anymore, but it does not mean erasing the memory or pretending it didn't happen. Forgiveness is remembering, with a healed heart, a heart that no longer bleeds from the wound. Think of Jesus, as He hung on the cross, betrayed by Judas, denied by Peter, abandoned by His closest friends. He prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That moment is the greatest example of forgiveness in all of history, not weakness, but divine strength. Jesus chose to forgive while He was still in unimaginable pain. He extended mercy even while the betrayal was still fresh. And if Jesus could forgive the very people who nailed Him to the cross, how much more can we forgive those who have hurt us? Forgiveness is never easy, it's never comfortable, but it is the way God calls us to live. When we forgive, we reflect the grace God has shown us. We mirror His mercy in our hearts. We step into His freedom. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but they don't deserve my forgiveness. They don't deserve a second chance. And you're right, they may not deserve it. But forgiveness isn't about what they deserve, it's about what God commands. It's about freeing yourself, not them. Sometimes forgiveness means setting strong, healthy boundaries. Sometimes it means walking away. Forgiveness does not mean you invite the person back into your life to hurt you again. It means you release the anger, but you hold on to the wisdom. Here's the beautiful part. Forgiveness opens the door for God's healing to flood your life. When you let go of bitterness, God's peace fills the empty spaces. You find rest for your weary soul. You discover a strength you never knew you had. You feel joy rising where sorrow once lived. Forgiveness breaks the cycle of hurt. Forgiveness starts a new cycle, a cycle of healing. So if someone has intentionally hurt you, cheated you, or betrayed you, don't hold on to that poison any longer. Don't let bitterness steal your joy. Don't let resentment rob your peace or your future. Choose forgiveness. It might be the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it will also be the most freeing. Forgiveness is what restores your soul. You don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve freedom. You forgive because God commands it. You forgive because it's the only way to truly move on. When you forgive, you take your power back. You tell the enemy, "You cannot keep me chained to this anger." You tell the world, "I am no longer a prisoner to what was done to me." You tell God, "I trust you to heal my heart." Forgiveness is the doorway to peace. It's the path to healing. It's the promise of a new beginning. Choose it. Choose it today. When someone hurts you deeply, when they cheat, when they betray you, it can feel like your whole world is collapsing, like you've been dragged into a battle you never agreed to fight. The pain is real, the wounds are deep, and sometimes it feels like you'll never be the same again. But here's a truth I need you to hear. You don't have to let what they did define who you are. You don't have to live as a prisoner to their choices. The enemy wants you to believe you're too broken to heal, that because you were betrayed, you'll never trust again, that because you were hurt, your heart will never fully recover. But God's word tells a different story. It says that even in the darkest nights, morning will come. It says that even the most shattered vessel can be mended by His hand. It says your past does not have to become your prison. When someone hurts you intentionally, they may have wanted to break your spirit. They may have hoped to silence your voice, to steal your joy, to destroy your hope. But you were created for more. You were created to heal, to rise, to thrive. Your identity is not in their betrayal. Your worth is not measured by their actions. Healing is not instant. It's a journey. You won't wake up tomorrow and feel completely whole, but every step you take away from the pain is a step toward freedom. Every prayer you whisper is another brick in your restoration. Every time you choose trust over bitterness, you're building your new life. Healing begins when you decide that you will not be defined by what happened to you. Healing begins when you look in the mirror and say, "I am more than this hurt. I am more than their betrayal." Sometimes, healing also means forgiving yourself. Maybe you're holding on to guilt, to shame, because of how you reacted, or how long you stayed, or how much you gave. But God's grace covers it all. He says, "You are forgiven. You are loved. You are still my child." When you accept that, you can finally move forward. Surround yourself with people who will walk this journey with you. Don't isolate yourself in your pain. Don't let the betrayal convince you to shut everyone out. There are people who will encourage you, pray with you, and remind you of your worth. Healing isn't just about patching what was broken. It's about becoming stronger because of it. It's about using your story to inspire others. When you rise from the ashes of betrayal, your life becomes living proof of God's power to restore. And healing also requires trusting God's timing. Sometimes you'll want to rush. Sometimes you'll just want the pain to end. But God is working, even when you can't see it. Be patient. Be kind to yourself. Guard your heart. But don't build walls that keep the right people out. Set boundaries. Don't rush back into situations that might reopen old wounds. And above all, keep your eyes on God. He is the ultimate healer. He is the one who restores what was lost. He is the one who brings peace where there was once pain. When you feel weak, lean on Him. When you feel discouraged, call out to Him. When you feel broken, remember, His strength is made perfect in weakness. If someone has betrayed you, don't let their actions write your story. Choose healing. Choose to rise. Choose to trust the God who makes all things new. Your story isn't over. Your best days are still ahead. Let God heal your heart, and watch as He turns your pain into purpose. We've seen that healing is not about rushing, and it's not about instantly trusting again. Healing is a process, a sacred journey that requires time, patience, and wisdom. So as you move forward, take the time you need to rebuild your sense of safety and peace. Don't pressure yourself to jump into situations or relationships that demand immediate trust. Healing cannot be forced. It must be allowed to unfold. When you're ready, when your heart has been strengthened by the lessons you've learned along this journey, you can step forward with confidence, knowing that you are no longer moving from a place of brokenness, but from a place of growth. Remember this: God's desire is for you to live in freedom. Not in fear. He wants you to experience His love and the genuine love of others, without the heavy chains of your past wounds weighing you down. When you guard your heart with wisdom, you're not shutting yourself off from life's blessings, you're creating a safe, fertile space for God's healing and peace to take root and grow. There's something incredibly comforting about knowing that God is the ultimate protector of your heart. No one can truly come close to you without His permission. When you surrender your hurts, your fears, and your future into His hands, He surrounds you like a shield. He wraps you in His grace. He guards you with His unshakable love. So yes, guard your heart, but guard it with wisdom. Not fear, guard it with strength. Not bitterness, guard it with grace. Not hardness. Learn from the past, forgive where forgiveness is needed, give yourself time and space to heal. And most importantly, trust God to protect and guide you, step by step, breath by breath. The damage that was done to you does not get to define your life. You can rise above it, you can love again, you can trust again. Because with God, every broken heart can be mended, and every wounded soul can find peace. Guard your heart well, let God's healing love be your greatest protection. When someone cheats, betrays, or intentionally hurts you, it can feel like the road ends there, like there's no way forward. But I need to tell you this. This is not the end of your story. There is a greater plan unfolding, a divine purpose that can use even the darkest moments for your good and for God's glory. When you begin to understand this, you will start to see your pain differently. You will begin to realize that what was meant to destroy you can actually become the very thing that strengthens you. God does not waste pain. Every trial, every wound, every heartbreak, it can all become a stepping stone to something greater. Even the damage done to you, even if it was meant to harm, has a purpose in God's hands. Sometimes, God allows the hardest trials to shape us into people of deep wisdom, strength, and compassion. Think about the stories in the Bible. Joseph was betrayed and sold into slavery by his own brothers. Yet, God used his suffering to place him in a position where he would save an entire nation. David was betrayed by people he trusted, hunted by those who once celebrated him, but he became known as a man after God's own heart. Jesus himself was betrayed, rejected, and crucified, but through that pain, salvation was brought to the world. Your pain, your betrayal, does not disqualify you, it prepares you, it refines you, it qualifies you for a greater purpose. The very thing that tried to break you is what God will use to build you. When you start seeing your pain through the lens of God's purpose, you can begin moving from bitterness to hope. One of the most powerful choices you can make is to refuse to let the hurt define you. You can choose to stay trapped in the damage, or you can choose to rise above it. You can allow the betrayal to harden your heart, or you can let it soften you into someone who knows how to show grace and mercy in a way few people ever could. This is where your faith becomes essential. Faith reminds you that God is still in control. Even when everything feels out of control, faith says the night may feel long, but morning will come. Faith believes God can bring beauty from ashes, joy from sorrow, and life from what feels dead. It's through faith that you find the strength to forgive, the courage to heal, and the hope to move forward. Faith anchors you when life's storms threaten to pull you under. And as you walk through this healing journey, remember, you are not walking alone. God is with you, His promises are steady, His love never fails. When you feel weak, He is strong. When you feel broken, He is the healer. When you feel lost, He is your guide. Your story is not over. The damage done to you does not write the ending. It does not determine your worth, and it does not dictate your future. God can take the worst pain and turn it into your greatest testimony. So when someone cheats you, hurts you, or betrays you, don't panic. Do one thing: trust God. Trust that He is working behind the scenes. Trust that He is shaping you. Even now, trust that He is preparing you for a future filled with hope and purpose. Your pain is not the end, it is the beginning of a new chapter. Keep your eyes on God. Watch how He turns your hurt into healing. Watch how He transforms your sorrow into joy. Watch how He turns your loss into victory. God's justice is perfect. When someone intentionally harms you, it is not ignored by heaven. God is not indifferent to your tears. Every moment you chose silence instead of revenge, He took note. Every time you chose grace over anger, He saw you. Every time you prayed for the strength to just keep breathing, He was right there. And yes, you may still wonder, but why did God allow it? Why didn't He stop it? It's a question we all ask, but God never promised a life without betrayal. He promised that we would never face it alone. Even in the betrayal, He is with you. Even in the heartbreak, He is with you. Even in the silence, He is still there. While they may have intended to destroy you, God intends to develop you. The people who broke you thought it was over, but they don't know your author. They don't know the God who takes what the enemy meant for evil and turns it into good. They don't know the God who restores what was lost, who binds up the brokenhearted, who lifts the lowly and defends the defenseless. They thought they could damage you and walk away free, but nothing escapes the eye of a holy God. You don't need to plot, you don't need to post, you don't need to prove anything. The most powerful thing you can do is to place that pain in God's hands and say, Lord, I don't understand why they did it, but I trust you to deal with it. And trust me, He will in His time, in His way, with more justice, more truth, and more wisdom than you ever could on your own. Forgiveness doesn't mean you pretend it didn't happen. It doesn't mean you let them back in to hurt you again. Forgiveness means you release the weight of the pain into God's hands. You let Him carry the anger, you let Him hold the grief, you let Him lift the betrayal. Because bitterness is a chain, but forgiveness is a key. When you forgive, you're not saying what they did was right, you're saying, I refuse to let what they did keep me from what God has next. Maybe tonight, you've been carrying this pain for years. Maybe it's been sitting on your back like a heavy shadow. But God is inviting you, right now, to lay it down. Don't wait for them to apologize, don't wait for them to understand. Let it go into the hands of the one who judges rightly. Let it go into the arms of the one who makes all things new. They may have damaged you intentionally, but God will restore you intentionally. He will bless you publicly for what you endured privately. He will raise you up, heal you, and give you a peace that no betrayal can ever steal.